In the tech ecosystem, founders build the products and investors write the checks.
Yeah.
But it's the journalists and the editors who write the history.
Mm.
They are the gatekeepers who decide which startup story the world actually gets to read. The editor of E27, Sainul Abudheen, sits at the absolute center of the Southeast Asian tech media. He has tracked the region's evolution for over 15 years, witnessing every cycle of boom, bust, and resilience. Today, we are stepping right behind the editor's desk to understand how the news is actually made. Sainul, welcome to the Journalist Story series. It is great to have you with us.
Thanks a lot, Barcelona, for having me on this series, and it was grateful. Yeah. I think let's keep going.
So, Sainul, you have almost 15 years of experience in journalism, on the field, off the field. So, your inbox is probably flooded with hundreds of PR pitches every single day
Right.
from companies worldwide. As the ultimate gatekeeper, what makes you instantly delete a pitch? And what is the one line that actually makes you stop and read?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So basically, I don't really did any pitches. I need to be very honest. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay. The problem is that so we don't receive just not just startup pitches, right? But tens of or hundreds of other kinds of emails as well. From tech and non-tech companies. Some are spam, some are cold emails from founders. So most of these, I mean, I think you know almost over 60% of these are not relevant to our platform, right? So
Okay.
this often basically ends up in genuine emails, getting buried or lying unattended or unnoticed. So that's a problem, okay? Because when you are a senior journalist, you have thousands of connections across the world. So of course we receive pictures or emails every day, hundreds of emails every day. But so what I usually do is that I just give a quick look at the emails that I receive on a daily basis, and then decide which ones to pick and take forward,
Okay.
right? Which one to feature. So it depends on a lot of factors, right? It basically, I mean, it depends on the relevance of the company, the timing, or the importance of that product, the market, the customer. That a lot of factors we basically take into account before deciding a company whether the company should be featured or not. Uh, but for us, E27, I don't know if other media companies work like this. But for us, every quarter we primarily focus on a single theme or basically a main theme, a primary theme. So for this quarter, it is cybersecurity. And for the last quarter, it was, or for the last 3-4 quarters, it was AI. And before that, I mean, around 2022, it was, I think, Web3 and Metaverse, etc. So, as I mentioned, so we pick a single theme every quarter, and then send emails to PR agencies or startup founders to pitch their story to us, and then based on their importance and the genuinity, right? We pick the story or pick their story and then feature them. It's completely free. Okay, we just feature because we want to empower the startup in Southeast Asian startups
Okay.
and provide them the tools to basically grow in this market. Yeah,
Okay.
so this is what I said. So having said that, nowadays any pitch, okay, any pitch, whether it's relevant, tech or no tech, can be converted into a good story. So that's what my experience. That's what I normally do. So if I find, even if my colleagues don't really find it interesting, I pick it and then I basically convert that into a good story. So this is how I work. Yeah, that's my personal
That
experience.
that sounds really interesting to know, Sainul. Okay. So I was actually curiously going through, your journey, your whole
Mm.
journey of how you started and what you're doing currently. So I just found out that you yourself are a co-founder of The Strategist. So,
Yeah.
a very interesting question I have for you.
Yeah.
Today, founders have their own massive platforms on LinkedIn and X, right?
Yeah.
So, with founders becoming their own media houses,
Mm.
has the role of tech publications like E27 shifted from breaking the news to
Mm.
verifying the reality?
Okay, so of course, so I would say when I started, I think in 12 or so, they both the ecosystem, Southeast Asia,
Hmm.
India. I started with Indian company, VC
Hmm.
Circle. Just startup customers, really, really small. What was
Hmm.
still was emerging, right?
Okay.
And of course, uh, I mean, if you look at 2026, it has completely changed. I mean, the
Hmm.
way companies work, the way investors invest in the company and the market, everything has changed, right? Because after COVID, especially the market, I mean, internet penetration, digitalization has, gone, what say, spiked. So everything has changed. So so uh, when I started, majority of these companies or the products were the carbon copies of Western products, right? If you look at, I don't name the companies because that's not okay. So,
Okay. Yeah.
okay, so they just pick a product from the West and then copy it and just tweak it and localize to cater to the local audience or customers, right? Especially in the B2C segment, right?
Hmm.
Because they burned billions of dollars or millions of dollars to acquire customers, and they were actually encouraged to do so by their VCs because they just want to inflate numbers, they just want to acquire customers, right? But that scenario has completely changed, especially after the funding winter came into existence. I think in the early part of this decade, right?
Hmm.
So of course, the breaking news has. I mean, the funding or the breaking news is totally gone. That's my understanding, my experience, right? Now we have several tools to analyze, to verify whether this claim is true. Because there are quite a few platforms, quite a few online platforms, or or companies, to verify whether their claim is true, whether this is whether this company is genuine. So I personally use AI tools, right, to
Okay.
analyze their numbers. For example, if a company comes to me, say that they have raised this much amount, or they have made this much revenue, they posted this much revenue this quarter. This has rely on some AI tools to
Hmm.
analyze whether this is genuine, whether they are lying, whether the numbers are true, and then whether the numbers are correct, etc. And then I tweak the questions, I pick up some points, and then send them a really pointed or questions to these people, and then extract extract the original story behind that number. That's what I do.
I get you. I mean, I do understand that.
Yeah.
So right now, many startups are pivoting their business models to survive. I mean, they're changing as per the environment, and they're thinking of new strategies of how to survive in this competitive market.
Yeah.
So when you interview a founder,
Mm.
uh, being a co-founder yourself and or being in the role of a journalist,
Mm.
so when you interview a founder who is changing direction, so,
Mm.
so how do you as a journalist distinguish between a strategic evolution and a desperate panic?
Okay. So honestly, you know, I don't really, or I don't think a genuine company
Hmm.
will go to the press or go to a media company to announce their pivot. If he really wants to build a company, or if he really wants to save his business and save his employees, he just focus on building the company. That's what I understand. That's what I mean. That should be the founder, right? Because of course, earlier, whenever they secure or raise some 200 k dollars, they just go to the press, and then they get noticed by venture capital investors or and other potential business partners, and then they build the business, right, based on that numbers. They're
Hmm.
just inflating their figures and to get some kind of valuation boost, etc. But that has totally changed now. Many companies have pivoted, especially after this COVID-19, right? I still remember, several companies of this Asia, several companies operating in the travel and then hospitality sector. They pivoted, right? But that made sense because if they want to survive, they have to pivot. So based on the market dynamics, the changes in the market, those user behavior, they will have to pivot. And when they pivot, they shouldn't go to the press to announce the pivot. Instead, they should, just focus on building the building product. And as you said that, I don't really receive that many emails when a company pivot, right? And
Okay.
I and when they pivot, of course, um, there are a few hints you get whether they are genuine or not. Okay.
Hmm.
For example, a genuine pivot will always look like a hypothesis built around data, right? They have the data, and they have already had their minor experiments with this product, and they have the enough finances to pivot the product and then to take it forward. Okay,
Okay.
so that is I would say a strong or a genuine pivot. Whereas a panic pivot is always uh, a wish disguised as a strategy, right? So they
Yes.
have a wish because they just want to save their names instead of the company or their employees. So yeah.
You said that a founder is focusing on building the company, and that's what a founder should actually focus on.
Yeah.
So I want to know your point of view, Simon, on this. A founder should actually focus on building the product or the service, or maybe a founder should actually focus on building the employee base who can actually develop the product and service.
I mean, everything is important here.
Okay.
If you want to build a company, of course you have to have a good team. You have to have a
Okay.
good co-founders, right? You have to find a good co-founder
Hmm.
and who can complement your skills.
Hmm.
And you have to build an initial team should be really strong.
Yes.
Okay. And of course, employees, first few employees are very important. I mean, it is a company. Building of a company depends on, or building of a good company, a genuine company, rely on all these people, all these factors. So
Hmm.
all these are important. All these are very important elements when you are building a company.
What is your mantra of building your own company? I'm quite curious to know about that. What do you so maybe I'll start with this, that where did you start? Where did this idea come from?
Okay. Okay. I don't know. I can be very brutal too. So I don't really. So we started, I think, around 2017, of
Oh,
course. But when we started in 2017, the market. I mean, it was the idea of my co-founder. Okay, he's
okay.
already building a digital marketing company, so he wanted to. He's not into startups, or he's not in startups. So see, he didn't have much idea about how the startup portal works and all, or because uh, let me make it very clear. So, unlike other businesses, digital media business is a really tough business to build because you don't get any kind of revenue in the first few years, right? For first 4, 5, 6 years, because you have to save a lot of money, and then you have to spend from your savings to build this company, and still it will take a really long time because you don't expect people to subscribe to your or may pay for your content, right? Because that happens only after you build a good user base and good content. So if you look at India, there are tons of news portals or startup news portals. So competing with these people is really tough. So I told them that he had some ideas, we can go this way and all, but that really, because I was already working, and if I want to build a really good company, a genuine company, I should focus completely. I should, quit this company, quit E27, and then fully invest in this business. That was not practical for me. It's not practical even now. So. The company hasn't really grown. So we covered some companies, we featured some startups and founders, but it is still very small. We started, but because we still need some kind of direction and some people to really spend their time and energy to build this business. So I don't have that much time. So it is still in. I would say it's in abeyance. I would say.
Yes, yes, yes. We'll obviously come back to E27 now.
Yeah.
So I see E27 actually covers a lot of companies expanding from India to Southeast Asia. So my question to you is, when an Indian founder tries to build a media narrative in Singapore or Indonesia or Vietnam, what is the biggest PR mistake they consistently make?
I think I have covered this in my earlier part of the first part of the interview. So basically, I mean, many Indian companies still that the Southeast Asia is a very single homogeneous market, which is wrong, totally wrong. I mean, of course, if you look at India, right, India is always uh, what's say called a country of countries, right? Because
Yes.
there are quite a few. It is more complex than India. The Southeast Asia is more complex than India. A single Southeast Asian strategy will never work. if you are a startup, you're a company, and if you want to go to Southeast Asia, there is nothing called Southeast Asian strategy. Each market is different. If
Yes.
you want to build a company in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, the market, the behavior, the user behavior is different, the market dynamics are different, everything is different, language is different. So you have to, if you want to build if you want to expand your business from India to Indonesia, you just focus on Indonesia. You need to have a channel partner who
Hmm.
knows the market really well, right? But when Singapore is totally different. It's a much advanced. I mean, I've already told me they're at least 20, 30 years ahead of us,
Yes.
right? I mean, everything is, I mean, in terms of connectivity. So I've been to Singapore some 4 or 5 times in the past. A good connectivity, road, everything. I mean, the infrastructure wise, education. So you cannot even compare Singapore with any of these markets in the region in Southeast Asia. So I mean, if you want a media narrative, you just you just get a just first of all, you should shed the idea that Southeast Asia is not a single market. It's very complex. And if
Yes.
you want to build a company in Indonesia, you should focus on solely on that. And then if you want, and then you have to deepen the market presence in Indonesia. And then if you want to go to the Philippines, it's totally different because their user behavior is totally different because I think they are very digital asset is really working up in the Philippines because they used to so during COVID they used to make money buying play to earn games. This
Oh.
yeah metaverse games and all. So it's a
Hmm.
totally different. Indonesia is different. Thailand
Hmm.
is completely different. So if you want to build or design a media strategy, you should study each of these markets really well and then localize the product and then get a channel partner and then you expand your presence. So we have a couple of, maybe I can give a couple of examples. One of a company, I don't name the company. It is
As
a
a thing.
behemoth in the, what is it, the hospitality sector. So they, I think in 2020 or I don't remember the date or even
Hmm.
before or after COVID, they just expanded to Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Yeah, they opened in every market and it collapsed. It didn't work out. Whereas another company called Red Doors, it's a company founded by an Indian. Okay, it is I don't think it has a presence in India. So they started with Indonesia. So they studied the market. They studied the market, then focus. They designed the strategy, and then they slowly built. They recently announced. I think the last, I mean, the other day they announced some 100 properties. It's into hospitality. So it
Yeah.
is how it works in Southeast Asia. I mean, it's not a single market, it's very complex market. I mean, more complex, more complicated than India.
Yes, 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 definitely. So when we say Southeast Asia, I mean that has actually become a terminology. Previously, when we used to utter SEA or Southeast Asia, we used to mainly focus on Singapore, Vietnam, Indonesia
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
And now there are booming markets in Philippines and Cambodia and maybe Thailand as well is quite coming up with a lot of tech and startups.
Yeah.
So, what, as per you, would turn out to be the next Singapore in Southeast Asia?
That's a very hard question. I don't think any of Singapore neighbors will become as Singapore in the
Okay,
near future.
okay, okay.
Honestly, because all this guys, Singapore is at least 20, 30 years of ahead of all these markets. Maybe Malaysia is slowly catching up, but still, it
Oh,
is not.
that's
It's not going to be Singapore any.
good.
I mean, anytime in the future. Even in the future, I don't think so.
Okay, 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 understood. So, I'll come to the work specifically, about how journalism works. So, by the time a press release comes out, the news is already old, Sainul. So, how do you discover the quiet, stealthy startups before they want to be found? What specific platforms do you monitor to spot early funding signals?
Uh, First of all, okay, as I think I covered this in the early part of this conversation. So funding is, I mean, I'm tired of what is it, writing about funding. Okay, so funding is, I mean, especially these days, your funding doesn't really. I mean, people don't really care about whether you are funded or not.
Okay.
The VCs or the market, they want to know whether you are building a genuine business, whether your unit economics make sense, whether
Hmm.
you have a good, returning customers, whether your customers are already genuine, or whether you are inflating your numbers. Because I know there are quite a few platforms to verify all these details, right? So just focus on building a genuine business, right?
Got it.
And what the question? I forgot the question.
The question was around this only. Like, I wanted to understand that what specific platforms do you use
Okay,
to
okay.
fund
So
your
of
business?
course, I mean, I don't. We don't need to go to any platforms to find out good companies. They always come to us. But and for us at E27, we have a database of thousands of startups, right? So what we normally do is that if you, for example, as I mentioned, for this quarter, our focus is cybersecurity. So
Hmm.
we pick cybersecurity startup database from our database, right? And
Hmm.
then we reach out to these people because they already created their profile on E27. They have updated details. So I think we should give something back to these people. So we reach out to them and we cover their stories. Okay. So for E27, it is how it works. If you want to get featured by E27's journalist or E27, you just create your profile in the on E27 and then leave us to us, or maybe you can just email to us and then we can just reach out to and then cover your company, or have a conversation and then cover your company.
Got it, got it, got it. So, in my previous questions, you said you are now tired of writing about funding.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to understand that what is going to be your next interesting headline about what topic?
Personally, I like to write about climate tech companies, or
Okay,
companies that are that are solving a real genuine problem. Okay,
okay,
so climate tech is, of course, it's very hot climate, and I mean climate tech or green tech. So these are always my favorite topics because
oh,
they are the ones what to say, who are solving a genuine problem of a common man. Right? Climate
yes,
tech, because climate tech is going to be really huge. Green tech, it is always focused on custom, I mean, on let's say farmers, etc. Right, farmers or all these smallholder farmers. So if you want, if you want, for me personally, so these are my favorite sectors or topics: climate tech and AI, of course, and cybersecurity because it is our key focus for this quarter, and
yes.
then green tech, and yeah, maybe some of these are some of the sectors that I would like to write about.
Right about.
Yeah,
Okay. Cybersecurity is actually an interesting topic. I
yeah,
mean, there's a lot of buzz around this theme,
yeah,
all over the globe.
absolutely.
Okay, maybe finally we would want to know maybe your viewpoint, or we want to sum up by understanding what suggestions you would give to the founders watching this video to get featured in E27. What is that one thing they should focus on building before they pick up a call to a journalist or a call to Sainul?
Okay. So the first thing is, don't tell us. I mean, you when you make a call to us, when you call us, don't say that we have raised some funding and then please cover us. That's
Oh,
good. Okay. Of course, I still do because that's. I mean, we have very clear instruction from the company that if you find a company or a founder relevant and who is building a real product or a genuine product, you just write about it. You just feature it because if this is if this somewhere it is going to help him, then you should do that. Okay,
yes.
so I do that. I still do that, but just focus on building a good business.
Yes.
Okay, a sustainable business, and that really makes sense. That can go a long way, right? Don't just inflate your numbers. Of course, you when you get a publicity, free publicity from the press, or get a VC attention, when someone invests in your company. Of course, your valuation goes up, but it will eventually you will collapse. But if you are building a good business without whether you are getting covered by a media company or a news portal, I mean that doesn't matter. You just focus on building a company, and then you will definitely win the trust, because after all, if you don't, if people don't trust your company or your product, then you'll collapse. So that's my, yeah,
Yes.
that's what I can say from my 15 years of experience.
Yes, yes. So to all the founders from Sainul, the only message which I can sum up in 2 words is like be genuine. So
Absolutely.
if
Yeah,
you are genuine, then maybe journalists will end up calling you to feature you in their stories, uh, and you picking
yeah,
a call to a journalist.
yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sainul, for joining us today, for sparing your valuable time and giving a lot of insights around the market, around journalism, around how to be a great founder as well. So thank you so much, Sainul, for being
Thanks
here.
for having me. And this is the first time or second time someone has interviewed me, because I always interview people. I've interviewed thousands, hundreds of people. This is the first time someone has interviewed me. And thanks a lot for the opportunity. And have a nice day.